Hello, I'm Zim. This is my channel where I talk about things because I can, and today I want to talk about what I thought of the movie Obsession. This video is going to be a bit different to my previous videos where I won't be looking at the internet's opinions on the film, but rather I'm going to discuss how it made me feel, details I noticed, how I interpreted them, and so on. It's probably also going to be a bit less structured because this is more or less a collection of notes and disorganized thoughts I had while watching. If any of my videos should serve as background noise, this is definitely the one. As usual, the title is a bit misleading on purpose because this is YouTube. The movie was great and I did not hate it, but I hated how it made me feel because it was deeply upsetting. It's a horror movie, fork found in kitchen. I actually rarely watch movies like this because I don't like bleak media, but I enjoy discussing movies that present their concepts and messages in interesting ways, which Obsession definitely does. It's also darkly comedic in some scenes, which I'm surprised it managed to pull off just given the plot. Obsession is a mean film. It's cruel and calculated and oh so well written. There were a lot of details which felt less like it's hammering a nail into you, but instead like it's scattering nails all over the floor and waiting for you to step on them. It's just full of moments that you don't think of that much when you're actually watching it, but in hindsight they fill you with a lot of dread. Now time for the disclaimer. This video is my opinions and my interpretations of the movie. It is perfectly okay to disagree or feel differently about it. Art will always be interpreted in different ways by different people. There are some scenes that I talk about here which also have different implications and intentions in real life, but this is a movie with a message, so take that context into account. This video will not be spoiler-free. I'll be going into detail about events in the film, what the story is overall about, and finally, this movie has heavy topics, so by extension, this video will too. If the subjects of self-harm, suicide, animal death, and sexual assault will be upsetting to you, make an informed decision now about if you want to keep watching or just sit this one out. Genuinely, this video is not worth putting yourself through any genuine distress over. Take care. And with that being said, let's talk about Obsession. So if you somehow don't know this already, given how popular it's become, Obsession is a horror movie that was released in May of this year and distributed by Focus Features. It was directed by Curry Barker, who also wrote and directed Milk and Cereal, and impressively, Obsession had a budget of only $750,000 USD, which is vastly outweighed by its commercial success so far of $229 million. This makes it Focus Features' highest grossing film. The story of Obsession follows a man called Bear who is infatuated with his crush, Nikki, and upon fumbling when trying to confess his feelings, resorts to using a monkey's paw type of item called a one-wish willow to wish for her to love him more than anyone else in the entire fucking world. Which of course does not go well for anyone involved. Before I actually start talking about the movie at length, I do want to say that a lot of the readings I have of Bear are deeply unsympathetic and kind of in bad faith. If you sympathize with Bear, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying that I don't. I think there are quite a few red flags in his behaviour long before anything supernatural happens. I do like Bear in the sense that he's a well-written character, but I can't wrap my head around anyone seeing him as anything more than a deeply selfish person. He's definitely significantly more likable towards the start of the movie, and he's definitely not one-dimensional and evil through and through, but there is a point where he goes long past being redeemable. A lot of this stuff is also kind of easier to see as red flags in hindsight when you maybe wouldn't have considered it such on a first watch. The title, Obsession, and the trailers obviously position Nikki as a crazy girlfriend misleadingly, but it doesn't take long to infer that if anyone is obsessed, it's Bear. The movie opens to Bear and his best friend Ian in a diner where Bear is trying to ask for advice on how to ask Nikki out. "I think about you all the time, Nikki," he says as he practices his confession to a waitress, and he lists nothing about Nikki or why he likes her. He lists things she's done for him. "You were nice to me. You called me after my nana passed." It makes it clear very early on that Bear is very lonely. He comes across as shy and bashful and insecure, and something that I also think was deliberate is he looks unkempt, even a bit greasy, as if he doesn't look after himself. Bear comes home after this scene to see his cat Sandy dead after getting into his deceased grandmother's medication that he neglected to dispose of, and I think of this as a way to show how his bad mental state and insecurity can affect and harm people around him. He's not doing well, he's neglecting his living space, and that negligence is what causes his cat's death. I have no doubt that Bear loved his cat, but not enough to take care of himself or his environment, just like he loves Nikki, but not enough to get over his insecurity and work up the courage to ask her out, which she ends up paying the price for. Side note, by the way, Michael Johnston does an incredible job playing Bear. He's a great crier. I don't have sympathy for Bear as a character, but I do pity him because he's pathetic in a very literal sense. Anyway, following Sandy's death, we see Bear scrolling through Nikki's Instagram. Let me remind you of the title of the movie. I'm not going to summarize absolutely everything, but Nikki calls him to ask when he's coming to trivia night, and then during this call, she drops her crystal necklace down the drain, and so Bear goes to buy her a new one, which is where he finds the One Wish Willow. When he buys it, he implies that it's for Nikki, which I found a little bit odd because there's been no indication that this is something she would like. As far as Bear knows, it's a cheap gimmick item, a $6.99 plastic stick. Right before buying the willow, Bear picks up a necklace and says Nikki would hate that, but he's saying this based on Ian's advice that Nikki hates sappy stuff. He opts for something else on a whim because he doesn't know what Nikki would like. Or at least that's how I'm interpreting that scene. Bear doesn't get a chance to talk to Nikki alone until after trivia night when he's driving her home, and this is where they have a conversation about a book Nikki wants to write. She says she needs a big life change because she's not feeling love and she needs to in order to bring the story to life. Bear says, so it's a romance, to which Nikki replies, no, it's a love story. Bear thinks they're the same thing. Going off literal definitions, romance generally refers to emotional or sexual attraction towards another person shown through courtship and gestures. Love, on the other hand, is vast and can apply in many situations, but is generally described as feelings of affection, warmth, protectiveness, and importantly, respect for another person. It's revealed later on that Nikki at some point said that she views Bear as a little brother, so in a way she does love him, but he views her romantically instead. Now, some additional context that isn't in the film is that Nikki's actress did multiple takes, some of which where she likes Bear and some where she doesn't, which they alternated between. Nikki did possibly have some feelings for him, but as a viewer, or from Bear's perspective, we don't know that and we never find out. Immediately after that conversation, Bear tells Nikki that he got her something, and Nikki gets nervous. She knows where this is going. Bear is viewing her from a romantic angle, and that's not the love she's looking for. She's frustrated by it. She tries to encourage Bear to tell her how he feels and stop beating around the bush with anecdotes and gestures, and he doesn't. One of the saddest things about this movie is that Nikki is shown to be a very kind and caring person, and if Bear just told her the truth, things would have gone differently. And even if she had rejected him or been cruel, she still wouldn't deserve what happens to her. It's just the fact that he had a genuine shot here. But it doesn't matter if Nikki did have a crush on him or not, because she didn't get the chance to actually consider the decision to reject or accept his feelings, and regardless of how she felt, the choice was taken from her. After Nikki gets out of the car, Bear sits alone, frustrated and upset, and he snaps the One Wish Willow, saying, I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the fucking world. The wish in of itself is bad. I see a lot of people say that it's natural to want your crush to like you back, or he had no way to know it would work, but I think a lot about the wording. More than anyone in the fucking world. This is a prime example of Nikki paying the price for Bear's insecurity, because he's clearly mad at himself, and that causes the impulsive decision to snap the willow, as well as to word the wish like this. The swear wasn't necessary, but I'd venture to guess it's there to show that he's being petulant when he's doing this. It's hyperbolic, but it's only hyperbolic because Bear is upset and desperate. Said hyperbole has dire consequences. It's of course normal to say things you don't mean in states of high emotion, but he put himself in this situation. For Nikki to love him more than anyone else in the world, that means putting him above her family, her friends, herself. Even without the wish working or the loss of autonomy, it's a deeply unhealthy way to view love, and I think that was intentional. You can definitely argue that Bear is not an irredeemable, evil person at this point, but he's clearly someone who needs to work on himself. This wish is inherently selfish, and I think that's especially driven home by the fact that he supposedly bought this willow for Nikki and then used it himself. We see the wish take hold almost instantly. Nikki eerily hangs on her porch before going back to the car and asking Bear, "You said you had something for me." This already seems off because it's a completely different attitude towards the idea of a gift than she had before. There's an awkward, stilted conversation as Nikki tries to invite Bear inside, but then she snaps back to herself. What the fuck, I'm acting so weird. From the very start we're told this is not her. She is aware something is wrong. She is confused and she is frightened. Bear thinks she's drunk. He says this and Nikki agrees she probably is, but tells Bear she can't be alone right now. I don't fault Bear for taking Nikki back to his place at all. She starts crying saying her dad is dying, and of course he wouldn't just leave her alone like that. But I do think no matter how you look at it, it's horrible that he agrees to sleep with her and makes out with her, so on. Yes, she asks him to do it, but as far as he is aware, she's drunk. Her father is dying, she's vulnerable, and she's not asking him to do this because she's in her right mind. Wish or no wish, Bear should have tried to refuse. Obviously, knowing what we know, wish Nikki wouldn't back down, but the fact that he immediately agreed to it is very disturbing. He doesn't see someone who is hurting. He sees his crush asking him to share a bed. He doesn't care how unlike herself she's acting. Or, he doesn't until he finds a shrine she made out of his dead cat. Because it's a horror movie, surely saw this coming. The point is, he was completely okay with her acting so weird until it started to inconvenience and gross him out. They have a conversation the following day where Nikki says that she was only acting weird because she was wasted, she was on drugs, and then she says, "I'm not saying you took advantage of me," to which Bear immediately gets defensive. He says, "I didn't know you were on drugs," because he knows he shouldn't have made out with her. He knows he did something wrong. Nikki repeatedly says that he didn't take advantage of her, while Bear continues repeating that angrily. It's almost like he's trying to convince himself of that. Ian eventually exposes that Nikki lied about her father dying, and there's a very on-the-nose line where he says, "It's like she snapped into a different person and is now infatuated with Bear." Shortly after this, we see it click for Bear that this is his wish. She says she loves him so much and she can't live without him, which is unhealthy. If your partner says this to you, that is deeply unhealthy. And when he asks, "More than anyone in the world?" she obviously agrees. The scene that follows made me sick to my stomach. This, to me, is genuinely the point where I couldn't see Bear as anything other than the villain of the film. It cuts to him having sex with Nikki, and she sounds like she's enjoying it, but we see her staring blankly, expressionless, barely moving. It's disturbing, especially because the scene right before this not only drives home that we know that's not Nikki, but that Bear has started to think so too, and did this anyway. The sheer extent of the wish's control is also shown through how she behaves while separated from Bear. He goes to work, and she stays at home smiling, standing at the door, urinating, vomiting on herself, and making no move to clean up. It's just depressing because from other scenes later on, we can infer that Nikki is aware of what's happening to her body. She's aware of how she's behaving. She just has no say in it. Everything has been taken from her, including her dignity and basic bodily functions. Ian and Bear have a conversation later on where Ian says, "It kind of looks like Nikki is going through something, and you're taking advantage of the situation." To which Bear says, "He's not, she's all over him, she's the one who won't leave him alone." I know I'm repeating myself, but this is just another example of him completely refusing any responsibility, and by saying this and talking to Ian this way, he's further isolating Nikki from her friends. And even if he somehow wasn't convinced this was his wish, it's shown to him that something is wrong and he's getting defensive, doing nothing to fix it. Bear doesn't call the support number on the One Wish Willow's box until after Nikki feeds him his dead cat. Once again, it's showing to us that he does not care what this wish has done to her. He cares about the fact it's affecting him. Even then, he doesn't ask for the wish to be undone, he asks for it to be altered, even specifies. He doesn't want it cancelled, he wants it altered. He asks if her love is real, and is told, just because you chose this for her doesn't make it less real. Bear in mind, Bear, get it? He chose this for her. It kind of reads to me as the consequences of coercion or manipulation. Yes, she needs him, but it's not out of love. The man on the phone asks if Bear would like to talk to Nikki, and we hear these gut-wrenching screams on the other side. And even after this, Bear isn't horrified by what he's done. He is not upset about her suffering. He's upset that his wish didn't go the way he wanted it to and that he has to face the consequences. Shortly after this, at Ian's party, Nikki snaps back to herself again and immediately freaks out, screaming, "It's not me, it's not me." She smashes a bottle and slams it into her face, and this is horrifying. The split second of control she has, she uses it to try and end herself, because that is how scared she is, and she doesn't even have the mercy of removing herself from the situation because the injury isn't fatal. Soon after, there's a scene that really made my skin crawl. Nikki, the real Nikki, begs Bear to kill her. The fact that she's asking to die is horrible for two reasons. First, because nobody should experience so much suffering that they're driven to that point, but second, because Bear knows that his death would reverse the wish, but he isn't willing to die. Nikki is, though. Nikki wants to die because of what he did. He won't even do that. She pays for his insecurity yet again as he asks, "What's so bad about being with me?" He would rather accept that he's robbed her of all control than accept that she isn't with him. Imagine this scene from Nikki's perspective. The whole time, she's had no idea what's been going on. She finally sees what might be a way out, and her only chance doesn't slip away. He refuses her because he can't accept the truth. Even at the end of the movie, Nikki still isn't free, because after the wish is broken, Nikki is going to jail. Bear is dead, he doesn't have to deal with the consequences, but she does. The way she cries, What did you do? Why did you do that? Breaks me. Sorry if I pronounced her name wrong. Indy Navarrete, who plays Nikki, did an amazing job in this movie in so many ways. I've already spoken about the different takes performed from the viewpoint that she did like him and versus she didn't, but it just makes the situation so much more bleak. She cared about him, but solely because he didn't care to ask how and didn't think she liked him how he wanted her to, he took everything from her. This part is kind of just a collection of stuff that I thought about a lot, but I wasn't sure how to fit it into the main video script, so let's get into that. Ian interrupts Bear and Nikki's conversation at trivia night with a random change of subject because he doesn't want Bear to confess at a friend group gathering. He tells them that Sarah, their co-worker, said that her father keeps a gun in a safe. It's in a gossipy, that's wild right way, but call her dad Chekhov, I guess, because it's a surprise tool that will help us later. I say this because I've seen people question where Nikki got a gun at the end of the movie. There's your answer. Nikki's last name is Freeman. Freeman. Free man. Isn't that ironic? Bear uses a knockoff version of ChatGPT in this movie to fact-check something, and as we all know, that's not how you fact-check something. We see in the history of his questions he's asked classic romance movies, again emphasizing the romance versus love story angle, how to woo a girl, how to impress a girl, how to flirt, how to know if you've been friend-zoned. He'd rather ask an AI chatbot than do any actual work getting to know Nikki or ask her how she views their relationship. I think having AI in this movie is a really cool detail because it's evidently poking fun at it, giving the movie a sense of realism because, yeah, Bear is exactly the kind of guy who would do this. There's another use of AI shortly after this where Nikki and Bear are having a cute little couples montage and looking at an AI-generated picture of themselves together. This is very clearly put in this montage to emphasize that it's not real. No matter how cute and happy they look, this relationship is artificial. After this montage, we see Bear and Nikki on a date, and Nikki is wearing a small silver necklace with a letter B pendant. This might be me reaching, but this feels reminiscent of a collar with an owner's name on the tag. You could infer that she's loyal and obsessed with him like a dog. As far as I can tell, it's also not a crystal necklace, and I think that might have been intentional that they'd specify her taste and then post-wish show her wearing something that doesn't align with it. Obviously, in real life, someone can wear their partner's initials and it's not weird, but this is a movie, so. When Nikki packs Bear his dead cat, his lunch, we see two Polaroid photos, one of him, labelled you, and one of Nikki, labelled not me. This isn't really a subtle detail by any means, it's just a smaller thing that I think can go unnoticed if you aren't really paying attention. It couldn't have been made clearer by now that this is not really Nikki, and the fact that he knows that, and we know he knows, and he still does nothing, significantly adds to how upsetting the movie is. We know from the phone call that dying undoes the wish. This is something to keep in mind for two reasons. I've seen people say that Nikki can take Ian's $1 billion that he wished for and run away at the end of the movie, but Ian is dead. Theoretically, his $1 billion are gone. The movie's ending is miserable, and the movie makes sure you know that there's no way out for her by setting that up earlier. There's also the fact that when Bear overdoses, he's not doing it to free Nikki, he's doing it to escape the consequences of his actions. He even immediately tries to make himself throw up, which just emphasizes he's a coward. I don't blame him for not offing himself as soon as he found out that was the only way to undo the wish, but I do blame him for the fact that he still did nothing after Nikki asked to die. Because what do you mean that she's more willing to go through with it than you are when this is your fault? During Ian's party, Nikki tells a story as part of a Jenga Dare game, and the story is Hansel and Gretel but freaky and incestuous. It is a callback to the fact that Nikki said Bear was like a brother, and emphasizes the wrongness in their relationship. The story is grotesquely sexual and nothing to do with emotion, again showing the romance story versus love story angle and just how much this is not Nikki. In the same game, the rules are that they can read the block and do the dare or instead drink. Bear gets a dare to kiss the person to his left, Sarah, and the thing is, he could have chosen not to read this and drink instead, but he does, and Nikki of course doesn't react well. Following her reaction, he seems pissed off at her, even though he directly caused this. Why did you do this? Why did you act like that? When it's his fault. Everything was normal, everything was good, you were so beautiful, you were normal. The fact that he focuses on her being beautiful first once again shows how he never knew or really loved her at all, and how he still doesn't care about what he's done to her. He asks, "Does Nikki like me?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm your Freaky Nikki." Freaky Nikki being an old high school nickname that earlier in the movie Nikki said she doesn't like and doesn't want to be called. So we know this is still the wish. The way Bear words things is interesting to me because he doesn't take any blame. Sandy died, not Sandy ate pills I left out. It's a childproof cap, it was his fault. After Nikki kills Sarah, he says, "She's obsessed with me, and something bad happened," as opposed to, "I made a horrible wish," because that didn't just happen. When he tries to break another willow to fix his wish, he says, "I wish Nikki Freeman only loved me as a friend," which I think is interesting because that doesn't undo his wish at all. Sarah's still dead in this scenario, and Nikki wouldn't love him as a friend after all of this, so she would still be trapped by that wish. When he's trying to explain the one wish willow to Ian, he says, "I made a wish, and it's fucking horrible." I think this is very deliberate wording because he's acting like the horrible part isn't connected to him making the wish. "I made a wish" being an independent clause, acting like how the wish turned out is the bad part, not the wish itself. And it's horrible tacked on at the end like it's just the way the cookie crumbles. I do not really have much left to say. I feel like that was a lot. I do wish I could have focused a bit more on Sarah and Ian, but this was probably too long as is. I will say that Megan Lawless and Cooper Thompson were amazing in this movie despite their characters having less screen time. This is probably going to be my longest video for a while, and it's only my 4th video ever, so the rest have not been like this. I'm sorry if this one specifically was a mess. To conclude, this movie was great, and it made me appropriately upset. Side note, I actually made a new Instagram account that I'm gonna put here because my previous videos have my art account linked, but I made a new one. I made a new one for my YouTube stuff, so if you wanna follow an Instagram account linked to my YouTube stuff, this is my new Instagram account. Anyway, thank you for watching, love you, bye bye, I just lost the game.